Good morning. I am Steve Weber. Welcome to the American Gumption Morning Show. It is Thursday, April 15th. Used to be tax day. I think we've extended it a month or so. So anyway, Thursday, April 15th, show number 157, broadcasting on Spirituality Gone Wild and the American Gumption Facebook and American Gumption YouTube channel. Alrighty, so today is a kind of a unique special show. I'm doing something I never really did before, and I'm basically going to do a slideshow of the trip across America, kind of or drive across America, a trip review. And I've got each day kind of outlined in terms of where I drove. I've got some maps prepared that show the starting route and the ending route and the miles, and so kind of give you just what the whole 26 days, 25 nights was all about in terms of, where I went, where I stayed a little bit, and people I met along the way. So it's a slideshow. It's got a lot of pictures, and I probably won't be on screen too much. I'm just going to put the slideshow up and just kind of talk over it as I scroll through each of the slides. So that's what is I'm prepared to do today, and we'll just see how it goes. So let's see, fingers crossed. I'm going to be using Google Slide, and I'll be sharing the second screen, and I'll have that up online, and hopefully it'll all go through. There's three slides that have videos, short little video clips in them, just like 10 seconds, 15 seconds and 30 seconds. Hopefully they'll all work and go according to plan. I'm pretty confident that all the pictures will work. So anyway, we're just going to give it a try. And like I said, I'm just going to go through it and just tell you what the journey was about. So it's a little bit of a travelogue type of show. And as I get out there living and working on the road, I'll probably, let people know where I'm going. And so this is sort of the precursor to that, part of what I think I might do. I'm not going to go into too much detail on any of the things, just sort of a high level, the whole big trip in review. So that's what this show is all about. So wish me luck as I try to make it all work. Hopefully the technology is going to work just exactly as I envisioned it. And I was going to do this show on Tuesday, and I started preparing for it a little bit too late. And I realized, oh my gosh, I don't have time to get it all together. So I did a little different show on Tuesday. And then, anyway, then I've worked to get it together. So anyway, that's what's planned for today. So now, before I start that, let me just tell you what's going to happen tomorrow and next week, because we're getting back into the groove of things, being back in the American Gumption broadcast studio, the Gumption. There it is, Gumption headquarters right there. And we're back home and we're broadcasting. And so for the next several months, I'll be just broadcasting here, doing a show similar to what I did the last 8 months. And then eventually hopefully this year sometime we'll get out on the road and, just be living and working and broadcasting on a regular basis from out there, meeting people, which is what this trip was all about. So this is kind of, like I said, that high level, go through it real quick, just give you an overview of what I did, kind of a trip in review. Alrighty, so now tomorrow I might have a guest. I've got a lead on a guest. We'll see if it comes together. Otherwise, I'll probably just do a short monologue segment. I've got a couple ideas that a lot of things left over from the trip. There's going to be dribs and drabs from the trip coming out because there's a lot of content that I have, and I'm not including all that here today. I'm just going to be mixing that in the next week or two as we go forward. Monday, Andrew Kaplan, The Last Law of Attraction Book You'll Ever Need. So we're going to be talking Law of Attraction on Monday with Andrew Kaplan. Tuesday, to be announced. Wednesday, Pamela Gerard, who I had scheduled for yesterday. We had to reschedule her for next Wednesday. And she is a singer-songwriter, a poet, speaker, writer, soul alchemist, or sound alchemist, and also soul alchemist, and wisdom keeper. So she'll be on with us next week. And I'm not sure what'll happen on Thursday, Friday next week at this point. All righty. So that's what's coming up. the next couple of shows. So planning to do a show tomorrow, and then shows mostly next week, probably 5 shows. But yeah, we certainly got a show on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday. So, alrighty, now let's see here. What do I want to do? I want to go ahead and I want to share my screen. I'm going to throw this up here. Let's see the trip. The monologue, yeah, the trip review, drive across America. We're going to probably leave that up the whole time. And let me go ahead and share the screen. There we go. There's me in the little thing. So yeah, this is the drive across America trip review. And it took it was 26 days total, and it was 25 nights left on March 17th. And returned home on Sunday, April the 12th. All righty. Now, let's see. I'm going to get myself organized. Then here we go. So here is the trip in review as far as the big picture goes. And you can see now the blue line is if I would have went from Santa Clara to Green Lane, Pennsylvania, Google Maps said, hey, you just drive straight across Highway 80. Really, that's Highway 80 right at the San Francisco, or, picks it up there and then goes right across the country. And now I took the red route. So I went down to Redondo Beach and then up to Salt Lake City. Let's see here. I can follow here. So I can do it this way. So yeah, I went to Redondo Beach, and then I spent the night at a rest stop. I'll tell you about that. Up to Salt Lake City, over to Boulder, Kansas City, Fort Wayne, Indiana, right next to Akron, Ohio, Ford City, right above Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and then home. So that was the basic trip that I took over the course of those many days. All righty. Now I left on March 17th, and I flew from Philadelphia to Phoenix, and then, from Phoenix up to San Jose. So really the drive didn't start until, a few days later, but we're calling it the drive across America. But I had to get out to California to begin the drive. So that was day one there. Alrighty. Then I was in Northern California for days 2, 3, and 4, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And I basically just hung out for a couple days, visited with Sister Jean and brother-in-law Bob. I did a couple of remote broadcasts, kind of got my feet wet. I think I did them on Thursday and Friday, brief little shows, monologue shows. And then on Friday, I took a trip down to Monterey, and I'm going to show you that in a minute. But then there was a family visit with some in-laws on Saturday. And so basically it was just kind of hanging out and not really moving too much, but they did take that trip to Monterey. Now, here is the car. I'm going to go ahead and remove myself from the layout and just put let's see, there we go. Let's see, do I want to do this? Whoops, I want to do, there we go. That's what I wanted to do. All right. So now I'm off screen, but this is the car that, Gene, maybe I'm going to take that trip banner off of there. That's a little distracting. All right. So Sister Jean basically had a car. She got a brand new car, and she ended up giving it to Eileen, my older sister, and the purpose of the trip was for me to transport the car, but the way I looked at it, the car was the transport vehicle, and so all right, now still getting organized. There's me in the new car, getting ready to get in the new car and take a drive. So that's the 2010 Prius. That was my cross country vehicle that I went with. Now on Friday, I told you March 19th, I took a trip down to Monterey, visited friends Scott Hunter and Dory Highland. They became friends of mine in Monterey within the first year. So 1996, 97, I met Scott and Dory just from hanging out in Monterey on that regular basis. And we became friends. And over the next 15 years, as I visited, I always would see them. And I ended up, the purpose of the trip was to get down there, visit the Monterey restaurant, say hello to Scott and Dory, and then just see the Monterey Bay. But basically from Santa Clara down to Monterey it's an 80-mile drive, round trip, 160 miles. That took place on Friday. And I do have enough video to put together a little bit of a scenes from it, but that's not included here. Now, let's see what the next slide is. Okay, this is going to be one of the videos, and so let's make that work. Here we go. This is the Bubba Gump restaurant, right at the street sign that you see there. When you walk down the street, you see it. There's the plaza right in front of the Bubba Gump restaurant. There is the restaurant itself. And this is a little bit changed since when I originally started there was a restaurant, there was a blank field next to it, and a big restaurant or a big hotel and restaurant was built right next to it. You can see the drive-in plaza that cuts into it. But basically that is the Bubba Gump restaurant there. Now, I'm going to go to one more slide. All right. Now, this is, again, the videos. They're taking a second longer. Now, this is the Bubba Gump restaurant and the bench. You can see the Forrest Gump bench. I'm zooming in on it. That is the place that I sat for all those years and talked and entertained people. I called it my office. I would set up shop there for 5 hours a day on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Of course, when the San Francisco restaurant opened up, I ended up, splitting time between Monterey and San Francisco. San Francisco had a bench similar to it, but Monterey was the original restaurant, the original location. All righty, let's see if we can get this. There we go. Let's see. The video part. Whoop, I wanted to show that again. There we go. Now I go down to the Bubba Gump restaurant, and I set up and I film a little bit in front of it. And I go into the restaurant to see if possibly I know anybody. And sure enough, the manager of the restaurant comes up and she says, "I remember you. What are you doing here?" And now I have to apologize because I didn't write her name down, and she was a server when we started, but she came out and she greeted me and made me feel nice and welcome. And there's a kind of a typical picture. You can see I have my feet in the Forrest Gump shoes that are on the ground. People put their feet behind it. There's the bench, of course, and then there's the suitcase that's sort of attached, a permanent fixture. The shoes are a permanent fixture. People come and take a photo. And so there we were together. The next slide is a little bit more of a close-up of us. And so anyway, it was just great that she made me feel very welcome, and I appreciated that. And in fact, let's see if I can exit the. So yes, in fact, she ended up giving me a brand new Bubba Gump sweatshirt. Look at that there. 75 is the year that the restaurant began from the movie. So or it wasn't a restaurant. It was the Forrest Gump, Bubba Gump Shrimp Restaurant, or it was Bubba Gump Shrimping Company. And so anyway, that was from the movie. That's why 75 is on there. So anyway, that was kind of fun to see and spend that time there with her. So anyway, grateful for the nice reception that I received as I showed up at the Bubba Gump restaurant. Now, the next slide, let's see. Whoops, I got to click on the right screen to make things work. Here we go. Now, this is going to be a video. This video I recorded sitting there. Now, the music's kind of loud. It was playing and the microphone picked that up, but let's see if you can hear me speaking. Restaurant. It was 25 years ago in about 2 weeks that I first appeared here at the Bubba Gump restaurant. The day after I first appeared, my picture was on the newspaper front cover, and they ended up hiring me for the next 15 years. I opened 22 U.S. locations and 8 international. But this Bubba Gump right here in Monterey, California, was the very first place that I got my start on March 29, 1996. Oh, all right. Steve Weber here. And all right, there we go. So that was, that was the me doing a little broadcast that day right there from the Bubba Gump restaurant, March 29th, 1996. So what we're talking about 2 weeks ago, roughly, almost 3 weeks ago now, was the 25th anniversary of the first day that I appeared at the Forrest Gump restaurant. All righty, now let's just keep on with this slideshow. Here we go. So the next day, Sunday, I left March 21st, and I drove down to Redondo Beach where Victoria Reynolds lives. She welcomed me and played host for the next 4 out of the next 5 nights, and 360-mile drive. So that was really my first driving day. I did take that drive down and back to Monterey, but this was then the adventure really began on Sunday, March 21st, and took that nice drive. Now I lived in the San Jose, San Francisco Bay Area for 27 years. And so I had gone down to LA. That's Route 5 going down the center of the state. And I've done that many times. I don't know how many times I went down to Southern California, but over the years, I'm guessing at least a dozen times, maybe even more. So it was kind of a fun trip to go ahead and take that drive down there. Left at about 11 a.m. and got there at 6 p.m. that night. So on the next day, what we did was we just kind of hung out and wasn't sure what was going to happen. I thought maybe I might do a broadcast that morning, but I did not. And I just hung out, and then we went out, had lunch, and went down to the beach, and then we ended up seeing Debbie G that evening. So here's some pictures of the beach. This is looking north. You can see it's kind of zoomed in on, that's up in the LA area, or maybe not LA, quite to LA, but there's different, you can see some different, industrial looking buildings looking north from Redondo. And this one's a little more scanned out looking across the bay there. And then this one is looking south. That's Palos Verdes, that tip that juts out into the ocean. And so Redondo is just on the northern side of that. And Huntington Beach is on the southern side of this. And that's where Debbie G lives. And here's a picture of Victoria and I as we were just sitting on a bench looking out over the ocean. It was a beautiful day. It felt great to be getting out. We had lunch at a restaurant and then sat on the bench overlooking there. So then that evening, Victoria and I took a little drive down. It was about 40 miles, and we went right around the tip of Palos Verdes. You can see how we went there. Now it was funny. The map tells you to take the 405, and which is, let's see, 405 is this road right in here, which is the way we came home. But we wanted to take a drive, and so we went around, like I said, that tip Palos Verdes down to Huntington Beach. And it's funny, everybody talks about whether it's people talk about it being distance in Southern California as by the hour and a half, 90 minutes, 2 hours. Nobody talks about how many miles it is. All righty. And so now this is when we got to Debbie G's place. And here is the studio. Anybody who's watched Debbie's show will recognize that backdrop that she, where she broadcasts from on a regular basis. Here's Debbie and I. That was the first day we actually met in person. And here she is with Victoria, and we went out to dinner, and there was a little fire to keep us warm. It was a little bit of a cool evening, but it was great just to be out and about. And so here we are taking some fun photos with the fire, Victoria and I. And here is Debbie and her son, Christopher. So the 4 of us went out to dinner that night, had a great meal. All righty. So the next day, we're back over at Victoria's house, and basically I wanted to test out my equipment. I had brought a couple tripods and my iPhone, and so I wanted to see how this was all going to work. I'd been broadcasting for the last 8 months from the American Gumption studio, and so I wasn't sure how this was all going to work. And so that was the first day we did it. Victoria and I did a show, and I do not have the number available, but anyway, we did a broadcast that day back on Tuesday, March 23rd. Now the next day, Wednesday, March 24th, we jumped in the car, Victoria and I, and we took a drive out to Palm Springs, met Joan of Angels, Dr. Sharon Stroud, and I was a guest on Sharon's show, and then also the Mineral Hot Springs. Now here's this is basically a 2-day trip. Wednesday out, Thursday came back to Redondo Beach, 125 miles each way. But you can see Palm Springs is just straight ahead, or straight due east inland from where Redondo is. So it took us a couple of hours to drive out that way. But during that trip, we also, like I said, Joan of Angels, Dr. Sharon Stroud, met Prince Fleet Easton, I met Julian and Sharon Holmes on the way back. I'll show you some pictures of all those. So here we are at Joan of Angels. This was the first stop. Went to her studio, and I have a lot of footage that I'm going to show. I got a separate little, editing project that will show what her studio and all of her paintings and her art looks like. And so we spent some time in the afternoon in her studio. Then I left and went over to Dr. Sharon Stroud's home, and she welcomed me, and I was her guest that evening, and I was on her show. So she does a weekly broadcast on Wednesday evening, and I was her guest. She broadcast from her living room. So it was really a fun time. Now, after that broadcast, she took me up to, she lives in this little gated kind of community, not gated, but this little community, and they have a mineral hot springs. And I got to soak that evening, Wednesday night, from about 9 to 10 in the mineral hot springs. And mineral hot springs have a very healing power. So that was a fun thing to do. Now, the next day, in fact, after that, I slept really, really well that night. The next day, Dr. Sharon was a guest on my show. I broadcast live. So I did on Thursday, March 25th, I did my show from Sharon's living room, and she was my guest. So the night before, she interviewed me on her show, and the next morning I interviewed her on my show. And then after that was done, I went back, and Victoria had spent the night at a hotel which also had a mineral hot springs. And so I was like already thinking, hey, this hot springs thing is a great idea. So we ended up jumping in the hot springs at the hotel, took a quick soak, and then went downtown to Palm Springs and met some other people for lunch. So who did we meet? We met Prince Fleet Easton. He has been named a prince by the town of Palm Springs for the work he's done over the last 15 years. He has a star on the Palm Springs Walk of Fame for the work that he's done the last 15 years. He's an actor. He's got a show coming up. I can't tell you anything more about it, but it's going to be coming out soon. I'll share that on my show as it comes out. But anyway, it's great to meet Prince in person. I got to know him through the Spirituality Gone family the last, really, I met him the very first week I was doing the broadcast. And then there's a picture of Fleet and I, and Victoria and Fleet also. And then we were out to lunch with Fleet and Victoria and Julian. We met Julian. Now, Julian is somebody who Victoria had already known, but from the Palm Springs community, Dr. Sharon and Joan of Angels and Fleet, they all had met Julian also. I got to meet him for the first time. So it was just a fun time. It was in Palm Springs. People were out and about. It felt like the country was opening up. That was my real experience, that things were coming alive again. All righty. Now, on the way back, so we left, we spent the afternoon that Thursday in Palm Springs. And then on the way back, I stopped in Anaheim Hills, and I met Sharon Holmes, who I knew from the celebrity impersonators and Sunburst conventions of celebrity impersonators. Now, here's a picture of all of the different impersonators as they gathered in 2014 at the Sunburst convention in Florida. But here is Sharon Holmes, who is Martha Stewart lookalike. And so on the left is her picture, her picture she had of her Martha look. And then there she was in person holding up an award she won at one of the conventions. And here is Sharon and the real Martha Stewart. She ended up meeting Martha. Martha Stewart had a lookalike contest, and apparently thousands of people submitted pictures. And out of all of those people, Sharon Holmes was the winner and was invited to come out and appear on her show and meet Martha. And I don't remember what year that was, but it was a few years back. I think when Martha was still doing a regular show on the network TVs, and I'm not sure, she's doing something on a regular basis now, but I'm not 100% sure. So that was a fun thing, and it was fun for Victoria to tell me. I remember Victoria told me that she said, "Oh my gosh, I didn't know anything about the celebrities impersonators and that whole world." So it was kind of a fun adventure. It was fast. That whole week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, man, it was a blur. It was just every day was action-packed stuff. So anyway, we get back to Redondo at about midnight, maybe a little before then. And the next day, I have to basically leave and begin my next adventure, but not before I do a live broadcast in which Victoria was on my show, and then I recorded a segment in which Victoria ran a few days later. So I was a guest on Victoria's show, and then at 1 p.m. I departed Southern California, and my plan was to drive to Las Vegas. However, plans don't always work out the way you expect them to. And so I drive basically that night about 425 miles. I left at 1 o'clock and I'm driving, and it's about 6 o'clock and I'm in Vegas. It was a little bit slow getting out of the LA area and then through part of, as I got up to Las Vegas, traffic had some kind of a major traffic jam it slowed things down. Anyway, I'm getting to Las Vegas. It's about dark. And I don't have a hotel room, but I'm not worried about it. I'm figuring I'm going to get a hotel room. Sure enough, no hotel rooms available. Well, there was hotel rooms available, but they were like $300. And I just wanted to stop and, sleep for a few hours. And so anyway, I thought I'll just go to the next town. So I drive about, another hour. And then I drive another hour, and now I'm getting close to St. George, and St. George is filled up. There's no hotel room. So for whatever reason, it's like the country was opening up. Everybody wanted so I ended up staying at a rest stop above St. George, sleeping in the car. It wasn't a very comfortable night. It wasn't a very good sleep. And so from about 1 to 6 a.m., I was in the car attempting to sleep. I probably slept maybe an hour or two. And then the next morning woke up at 6 and started driving again, and headed up to Salt Lake City to friends Mitch and Linda Sehusen's house, who have stayed there plenty of times. And that was a recovery day for me. Turns out this was kind of a funny, crazy thing. I had talked to Mitch, at least a couple of maybe a week or 10 days earlier before I left on the trip, and said, "Hey, I'll be coming through that weekend." He said, "Great." He goes, "I got business in Denver. We'll drive over on Sunday, and so just show up on Saturday." So I send him a message on Saturday morning after I wake up from the rest stop, and I said, "Hey, Mitch, I'm coming to Salt Lake City, coming your way." And he goes, "Oh my gosh, I'm in Utah. I'm cleaning out my father's house. Here's the key, or here's the code to get into the garage." I had been there times before, so I kind of knew the procedure. They told me where I could find the key to get into the house. Go ahead in and make yourself comfortable. So I after not getting much sleep on it's Friday night, I ended up just stopping off at Mitch's house and just chilling out that whole afternoon and resting and relaxing and recovering. And at some point, I'm like, I sent him a message. I said, "Oh, there's some leftover Chinese in the refrigerator. You mind if I have that?" And he's like, "Oh no, help yourself." And then he says, "Oh, there's some Mexican food in the refrigerator down on the lower shelf. Go ahead and help yourself to that too." So I ate well. I slept well. I recovered that day. That was my that was the Saturday drive. So anyway, I took a nap, sat on that recliner, and ate leftovers out of the refrigerator for that day on Saturday. All righty. So then, and this just shows you what the drive was like. So from the St. George rest stop area, about 280 miles up to Salt Lake City that day. Got there by noon. So, I was there bright and early, but hadn't slept. I slept only an hour or so that night. So the rest of that day was a recovery day. Now, the next day I wake up and I have to do my weekly Gump date. And so I get up at about 6:30 and I blasted out a quick update. Turned out to be a pretty good update actually, but I get it out, but I need to meet Scott Stanfield, or I had committed to meeting Scott Stanfield in Park City, about a half hour away from Salt Lake where I was staying, and the car wouldn't start. And so I ended up having a dead battery as a result of the sleeping in the car the night before and not going through the proper shutdown procedure. And so I messaged Scott and said, gee, I'm going to be a little bit late. And then I messaged him back and saying the car won't start. We talk on the phone. He decides to just drive down with his jumper cables, and we got the car started. And I was a little nervous about it, not sure what was going to happen. It's the Prius, it's the a hybrid, and so basically it was just a 12-volt battery that turns things over and operates all of the the electronic equipment in it, the radio, the door locks, all that stuff. So anyway, Scott showed up, and after a couple of hours, everything was back to normal, and I departed Salt Lake City and arrived at Boulder that evening. So here is that day driving. I left Salt Lake City, I said about 1. It was 525 miles, basically right across Route 80. And then once you get to Cheyenne, Wyoming, you take a right turn to the south and you go down to Boulder, which is another, 60 miles or so. And just Boulder's just about an hour north of Denver, half hour north of Denver. And so that was that drive. Beautiful day. Up until this point, all the weather had been great too. Mostly sunny weather. Everything was crystal clear. So that was a safe little travel. Now, it was really kind of important for me to there we go. It was important for me to get there on that Sunday because I had an appointment with Angie LaRue at her Crystal Sanctum, crystalarrays.com. And so Angie and I had, I had interviewed her 3 times. We had gotten to know each other over the last couple of months. And I just was really looking forward to that date on Monday. And so I was really grateful that I was able to, get that battery jump started and get back on the road and arrive out there in Boulder that evening. But anyway, so it all worked out great. So that next day on Monday, I'm in, and that's Boulder day 1, Monday, March 29th. I go to the Crystal Sanctum, Angie LaRue's. First, of course, I had breakfast, but then arrived at the Crystal Sanctum at 11. And we went through about a 7-hour, there we go. Visit from 11 to 6 p.m. And basically the first couple of hours were all about like tuning up the sensitivity to vibrations, right? We're all energy. And so these crystal arrays is nothing more than an energetic crystal bio bed. And I have a whole bunch of video that I need to make a special show, and that will be forthcoming. I interviewed Angie for about 20 minutes on Tuesday, and I was interviewed after the crystal array treatment or setup that I went through that day. But the first few hours, we just basically were doing these different exercises. And then the last couple of hours, we went from about 3 to 6, we went through and actually did the building of the crystal array, and then doing the interview afterwards. So that's a separate story. I'm going to save that for a different time and place. So anyway, that was Monday. That was all about that whole thing. Here's a picture of Angie and I. It was great to be hanging out with her. Oh, and then here is on the left side is the colored crystals are chakra crystals, and they are placed on the different energy centers of the body. And then on the right, you can see the different crystals that she uses to directionally to build the array. And again, I'll talk about that as I do a full show on that itself. And then that evening, 4 of us went out to dinner, Kathy Mason and Angie, and Gar is the gentleman on to my right, to the between Kathy and I, and then of course I am there. And so we were out, had a good time at a restaurant that evening, Monday. So Monday was a jam-packed day. Arrived at the Crystal Sanctum at 11 o'clock and got home back to the hotel probably about 10 o'clock in the evening. So great day. Now the next day, I went back to the Crystal Sanctum and did a wrap up. That's when I did the interview with Angie. And then after that, I went back to the hotel. I was exhausted and hung out. And then that evening, I went and had dinner with Kathy Mason, just the two of us. And so we got to know each other and talked about her business and just spent some quality one-on-one time. So that was a fun day. Now, the third day in Boulder, it was a rest day, man. I basically did some, brain dead work where I deleted a bunch of emails and chilled out at the hotel. But I did go to dinner with my nephew, Jake, that evening and met his girlfriend, Callie. And we had a great time visiting. And we went to the Bubba Gump restaurant in Denver. So it was a fun time. Just a nice way to visit and spend that evening and my last day in Boulder. Now, it was funny. These are a couple of trivia questions that I got stumped on. I didn't think that they were right, but I double checked and confirmed everything. And sure enough. So the first question was, when was Forrest Gump? What was his number? What was Forrest Gump's number when he was a football player? And of course, I knew it was number 44. And then the waiter said, well, why was he number 44? And I'm like, I don't know. And they said he was born in 1944. Well, I basically said, I don't think so. I threw down the flag and I challenged it, a challenge flag. I said that I think Forrest was born in 1945. Both Jenny and Bubba, I have pictures of their gravestone. They were both born in 1945. I assume Forrest was born but anyway, here in somewhere on Wikipedia or something, Forrest Gump, the character, Wikipedia, it says he was born on June 6, 1944. And then the other question that I got stumped on is, what was his belt buckle? Look at this, the belt buckle. Well, how did I know that? Well, there was a big giant picture in that restaurant and you could see it. It says Mount Rushmore. So there you go. Those were the trivia questions that I got stumped on at the Bubba Gump restaurant in Denver, admitting that I did not know these questions. Alrighty. So I left Thursday morning. I did a broadcast that morning, and then I basically departed Boulder about 9 a.m. Central Mountain. I departed Boulder on Mountain Daylight Time, and I arrived in Kansas City at 7:30 time there. So that was a big drive. That was 620 miles that day. So that took all day, but it was a fun time and. It was grateful to be with family, and then camped out in Kansas City in Overland Park at my brother John and Rosemary's home for the next for 5 nights. So I stayed there Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Departed on Tuesday morning. There we go. All righty. So on Friday was a chill out day. I set up my office in the basement, took a nap, fiddled around with some files, tried to get organized. At this point in time on the trip, I realized, I had already realized it, but I was not able to process and do any editing with my, the different pieces that I had. I had scheduled so much like meeting people and driving that I didn't have any time to just sit and get my files organized. And I have, so at this point, I already had the major production, the major broadcast or story of the day that I spent with Angie LaRue at the Crystal Sanctum. That is a major story that I still have to share. And then there were 3 or 4 minor stories that I had already done up until that point. The trip to Monterey and the Joan of Angels and a couple of Sharon Holmes, the Martha Stewart. So I had done recordings with them, but I didn't have time to edit those things. So I didn't have any time for editing. I thought I might get some of that done in Kansas City. And I thought maybe that day would be a good day to do it, but not so much. I was pretty, pretty brain dead and so not able to, I just needed some relaxing time at that point. Alrighty. Now, on Saturday, I go out to the World War I Museum and Memorial, where Brother John is a volunteer guide. So he goes in a couple days a week. And I did end up doing a recording lots of footage, and then I ended up doing a broadcast with John, or I edited. I interviewed John when we got back to the house, and then I edited it that evening. So Saturday became that story, and then on Monday morning, Monday, April 5th, I did a broadcast in which I showed that 15-minute story that John John did with the interview and the World War I Museum and Memorial, and then interviewed John a little bit more on that show. So that's Monday. That was Monday, April 5th show, broadcast from Kansas City. But basically that Saturday was all about that particular day. Here's a picture of the memorial, and this was built back in the 1920s, I think dedicated in 1926 or 1927. And today it's the official World War I memorial and museum for the United States in Kansas City. So if you're ever in Kansas City, you want to check that out. Easter Sunday was April 4th. That was a family day. I did do the weekly Gump date in the morning, sent that out, but then basically got to visit with family. Hudson Tucker, he was the star of the show. He's 4 years old, about to be 5. And so anytime there's a 4-year-old, he's the guy in charge. It was funny. He said, "What's this thing?" And I had the tripod and I set up my camera on it. And then he was playing. It was so cute. He's taking pictures and he's pinching the pictures and zooming in and zooming out. He knows how all of that technology works. Here's the picture on the, let's see, on the right, or the left. The left side is myself and Tucker, and then Vince, Tucker's older brother, college age, my brother's and Rosemary's oldest grandson. And then the picture standing is Katie, the mother of the boys, Tucker and Vince. And Jack is AWOL in this picture, but he's the middle son. He's not in that picture. And then my nephew Mike. So brother and sister Katie and Mike, my brother John's daughter and son, two of the 4 children. There we go. All right, so got to spend Easter with family. There's John and Rosemary and I. So grateful for the family. Spent 5 nights in Kansas City, 4 full days. Grateful for the hospitality that they showed me. So that was great. All righty, now. Left Kansas. I broadcast. I mentioned this. I broadcast the World War I Museum, and we went out to barbecue. Kansas City barbecue. If you go to Kansas City, you need to do 2 things. You need to go to the World War I Museum, and you need to eat some Kansas City barbecue. All righty, very good. Now Tuesday was a driving day, another long driving day, and basically off to Fort Wayne, Indiana, and you can see 623 miles. Basically a wrong Route 70, and then basically take a kind of a left-hand sweeping turn up to the northeast corner of Indiana to Fort Wayne. What is in Fort Wayne? Why am I going to Fort Wayne? Because I was visiting the Silver Birch Studios, Radiance and Steve Tyler's brand new studio that they have. They have a ground couple of nice acreage, wood area, brand new house, a couple years that they built there. The studio brand new just this last year, and got to just spend the day hanging out with them. There's Radiance and I, and here's her husband Steve and I, and Steve. So Radiance, let's go back to this one. Radiance, I met through when I first started broadcasting. She trained me on how to use StreamYard. So super grateful for that. But we got to know each other. She was broadcasting a regular show on Sunday nights. She's cut back on that schedule at this point, but basically she's part of the Spirituality Gone Wild family. And then Steve and they met in a rock band. She was a singer, Steve was a guitar player, and anyway, their dream was to create a recording studio where musicians could come and record high quality. And so they have done that. They have their brand new recording studio, and it just opened up, and I got to see and experience that a bit. It's also video house production. I got to spend time with Steve. He explained a lot of things from a technical point of view that will significantly enhance the quality of broadcast that I can do once I get out there living on the road. I basically have a punch list of things to go through and learn about, and equipment that eventually get that will be part of the RV setup. So more about that later on, but super grateful for them. Spent the next morning, Thursday, April 8th, in Fort Wayne for day 2 in the morning, and then departed. And again, I spent the time working with Steve for about an hour. He showed me the video studio. So it's not only an audio studio, he's got a separate video studio to produce these things. Drove over to Akron, only a couple of hours away, and had dinner with a friend, Linda Bowl, but basically straight across the top of Ohio, Western Ohio, beautiful farmland, kind of flat, not, a little bit of rolling hills. And then as you got into the east, it got a lot hillier, and it also got a lot more congested from the Cleveland area. And so anyway, it was a beautiful day again, driving. Here's Linda and I. Linda and I met several years ago. She was living in Southern California. She ended up moving back to Talmadge, right next door to Akron, Talmadge, where she grew up, and she's caring for her father, or living with her father, helping to take care of him. He's still in good shape, but nice to have some friends and family around to help take care of you. And this is the church, the Talmadge Church, right on the circle. Talmadge has this great big circle. Like, we know circles that you drive around. Talmadge Circle has 8 different streets that intersect into it. It's kind of unique. I never saw anything quite like it. The circumference of the circle must be about maybe like a half a mile wide. It's a huge circle around the thing. And like I said, it's like a spoke. 8 streets go out in different directions. And this is the church there. And she told me that she got married there a long, long time ago. The marriage only lasted about a year, but there you go. So now I know Talmadge, Ohio. All righty. Then after Talmadge, I drove Friday to Butler, Pennsylvania to visit Diane Thomas. Diane is a friend from grade school. We grew up in the same towns next door to each other, and attended the same grade school and high school for 12 years. So Diane living out in Ford City, where her parents originally were from, and but she grew up in eastern Pennsylvania. Anyway, we got to spend time together, and there's Diane and I. Now, Diane was involved with another childhood friend, Michael Ty, who passed away a year ago, and so anyway, I stopped there a year and a half ago when I drove across the country and visited Diane and Michael. And then I got to go back and spend some time visiting with Diane this time. So, and I got to see the Allegheny River that runs down into Pittsburgh and then ends up becoming the Ohio River after that. But this is where it is in Ford City, probably about 75 miles north of Pittsburgh. All righty. Hung out that day in Ford City on Saturday. Decided not to drive back. I'm only like one drive away, but I spent 2 nights there in Ford City and took a little tour of the surrounding area. So there's another picture of the Allegheny, and here's a lake not too far from Ford City. You can see the trees were all exploding with leaves, a lot of blossoms on the different trees, and so really a pretty time. Warm. Shorts and a t-shirt weather. It was spectacular. This is Kittanning, the town next to Ford City, and that's that kind of medieval looking building with the tower. That was the prison there, right in Kittanning. And then finally, the last day I drove home, the last 300 miles. And when I got home, there's the trip, 300 miles across from Ford City to Green Lane. And when I got home, the whole family was there. So Sister Jean from California had come out, and Brother John and Rosemary were in town also from Kansas City. There's Dad in the middle, seated next to Eileen, whose home we were all gathered in and where I've been staying, and younger brother Ken in the upper left-hand corner. And so here's the spouses also joining in, and Dad, 92 years old. And that I arrived at 3:00 and the house was full. There were 25 people in the house. And so we had a great time there. So that is essentially my trip across America. How am I doing? Look, like 45 minutes. I'm going to wrap this up and just say there's one last shot of the trip. So started out in, here, I'll do it this way. Started out in Santa Clara, drove to Redondo Beach, was there for a couple of nights, took a quick trip over to Palm Springs and then back to Redondo, left, spent the night in a rest stop, went up to Salt Lake City, drove over to Boulder, spent 4 nights in Boulder, 5 nights in Kansas City, 2 nights in Fort Wayne, Indiana, 1 night in Akron, 2 nights in Ford City, Pennsylvania, and then home. that was my drive across America. Man, whew, I feel like I just did a marathon. I don't know if that was interesting for you guys, but it was fun for me to put together. And that kind of puts a wrap on it. I do have like 3 or 4 minor videos to still do some editing on and share those stories. And I have one major video that I need to edit, and that's the Crystal Array story with Angie LaRue. So that'll be forthcoming. That's it, everybody. Woo! I've been talking nonstop. Tomorrow, I'm not sure what I'm doing, but I'm planning to do a live broadcast. I might have a guest. I got a lead on a guest for tomorrow. We'll see. Andrew Kaplan, The Last Law of Attraction book you'll ever need. We'll be talking law of attraction on Monday. Tuesday, to be announced. Wednesday, Pamela Jane Gerard, who is a singer-songwriter and a sound alchemist. And so she will join us on Wednesday. And then I'm not sure what we're doing Thursday and Friday. We're still getting back into the regular groove here after that mighty trip. So I think that's it. I'm going to wind up. Have a great day, everybody. Appreciate if you hung in there and listened to this. That's great. Thank you so much. I will see you tomorrow.